Hello, dear aspirants. Assalamu alaikum. We are going to discuss about another very important topic that is foreign policy. This is a very important topic for all the aspirants of competitive exams, aspirants of LLB Part 1, AO levels, even BS Political Science IR or MPhil Political Science, and for general students as well. This is a very important topic. If you did not subscribe my channel, please subscribe my channel. Learn with Dr. Muhammad Ismail. What is foreign policy? Basically, lastly, in last video, we discussed about globalization. When there is globalization, that means no state is able to survive in isolation. Every state has to live with the collaboration and connectivity or having relations with other states. So while a state has to develop her relations with other states, then a policy has to be defined by the executive or the government of the state, which is to be known as foreign policy. Foreign policy involves the implementation of a group of principles which shape behavior pattern of a state which is negotiating with states to protect further its interests. This definition is given by Rode, and according to him, basically foreign policy is a set of principles which is opted by a government or a state, and after opting that set of principles, all the pattern and behavior for negotiating or having relations of a state with any other state of the world in international relations, in political relations, to protect further its interests, the policy which is needed and required to a state, which is needed to define to a state, that is to be known as foreign policy. Hopefully you are understanding this discussion about foreign policy. There is another definition about the foreign policy, that is foreign policy consists of decisions and actions which involve to some appreciable extent relations between states and others. Professor Joseph gave the definition, and in this definition, Professor wants to say that all the decisions which are or actions which are taken by the executive or the government of a state, which involve to define, determine having relations with other states, or the relation of a state with other state, that those all actions, those all decisions are to be known as foreign policy collectively. So hopefully are you understanding the concept of foreign policy? Basically, in the era of globalization and technological advancement, the relations of a state with other state are very important, and having those relations, a policy is needed to be defined, which is to be considered or termed as foreign policy. We have another definition to define this concept, that is foreign policy involves the formulation and implementation. Both aspects are here. Firstly, the states have to define, have to structure, have to formulate the foreign policies. Then after having that formulated, structured foreign policy is needed to implement practically while having relations with other states of a group of principles which shape the behavior pattern of a state, how a state will behave with other states. that behavior is already formulated, structured, and is being implemented by the executive or the state or the government of a state for other states of a state while negotiating with other states to protect or further its vital interests. So here, Rhodes, another very famous philosopher, says that foreign policy is basically the process of formulation, taking decision, and implementation for having relations for states' benefits, for states' interests with other states. That is to be known as foreign policy. So, if we talk about the significance of foreign policy, then Professor Taylor says foreign policy will go on so long as their sovereign states. Professor Taylor's mentions here in this definition the importance and significance of foreign policy, that foreign policy will exist, will survive, will remain, will be required, will be needed. To what extent? As there exists foreign states in the world, in this world. Because if there are some foreign states, if there are some sovereign states within a territory, so those sovereign states who have the authority and power to take decisions, to formulate set of principles and to implement, with having those sovereign rights, then while determining these sovereign rights, they are needed to have a set of principles which is needed to be foreign policy. Dear aspirants, I hope you have understood and you are able to understand the real concept of foreign policy, a policy or set of principles for creating relations with other states by a state. Now we have to talk about the objectives of foreign policy. Why a state? That is very clear that if there is a sovereign state which is existing in present era, the era of modernization and globalization, that state needs a set of decisions and principles to have collaboration and relations with other states. So that is to be known as foreign policy. So what may be the objectives behind? So here we are going to discuss those objectives of foreign policy. The very first and the most important objective of foreign policy basically is national interests. While structuring, formulating, taking decision of relations with other state, a state must have to consider the national interests, the interests of the state and nations. So the most important objective of formulating a foreign policy is the national interest. Then international cooperation, which is the requirement to adjust in globalization, and we have discussed in detail in last our lecture the concept of globalization. So in globalization, every state is needed to have relations and cooperations with other states, and for those relations and cooperations, definitely foreign policy is needed and required. Another important object of foreign policy, that is the protection of foreign sovereignty, protection of external sovereignty in the era of internationalism, in the era of world order. So every state is needed to protect its sovereignty, is needed to protect its territory, its boundary For the protection of sovereign rights, external sovereignty, foreign policy is needed and required. So, protection of economy. Economy is the backbone for every state, and uh, to export the goods, to import the goods, to having international treaties of trade and others. Every state is needed to have relations with other states within the region, within the continent, and even in other continental states. And for the said objective, foreign policy is needed and required. Protection of ideology. Every state is based on an ideology. If we talk about Pakistan, we have two nation theory or ideology. So every state is needed to protect its ideology, either that is capitalism, Marxism, socialism, or whatsoever there is the ideology, even on religion based or on economy based. So, for the protection of ideology and having the diplomatic relations of a state with other states, what is needed? That is relations. And what are to be termed those relations? Those are to be termed as foreign relations, foreign affairs, foreign policy, policy which defines the relation of a state with the other state. So, requirements of territories or borders. Every state has a very important element, that is the borders or the territories. And for the protection of the borders, for the protection of territories, the relations with the other states are very important. Geostrategic position, geostrategic location is also required to have relations with other states, to have policy, to have set of principles with other relations. Dear aspirants, in this video we shortly discuss the concept of foreign policy, a few definitions, along with a few objectives of foreign policy, which are very important. And in the next video, you are going to learn about the determinants of foreign policy, the theories of applied, which are applied on foreign policy by the states, and the foreign policy of different states. Even we will study which are very important in Pakistan affairs and current affairs, and for aspirants of competitive exams, and many more about this foreign policy. This is the video of part 1 of foreign policy, lecture part 1, and you will get inshallah very soon the lecture 2, 3, part 2, 3, and some other parts on this foreign policy. Hopefully you are understanding me, you are learning me. If there is another issue, you may text me, you may inbox text, and inshallah we will follow. So subscribe my channel, learn with Dr. Ismail. Thank you.